Welcome to California's Sonoma, a picturesque region renowned for its world-class wines and stunning natural beauty. But there is even more to Sonoma. Nestled among its undulating hills sits the world-renowned Sonoma Raceway, which hosts the 5th round of the 2024 Ferrari Challenge season. This circuit, with its sweeping curves and vast elevation changes, offers a thrilling spectacle for drivers and fans alike. As the engines echo through the hills, anticipation builds for an electrifying Ferrari Challenge weekend, highlighting the capabilities of these awesome cars and the passion and determination of the drivers behind the wheel.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sonoma Raceway here in California. Welcome also to my friend Justin Bell, back with me again. Delighted to have you here. Last couple of weeks in California, it's been all about Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me back, second year in a row. Last weekend, Monterey Car Week, unbelievable. Casa Ferrari, my favorite day of the year. I got to tell you, literally a kaleidoscope of the history of Ferrari road and race cars. Best food as well on the peninsula. But coming here, same thing, incredible cars, great set of drivers, but lap times have plummeted around here. They resurfaced the track, which was much needed, I got to say. But also, it's my first chance to see the new platform, the 296, going out in action on track. It's also my favorite new road car, so I'm very happy to be here.
Great that you're here. You're certainly not going to be disappointed. The 296 Challenge this year has been simply awesome. The drivers have taken to this car like the proverbial duck to water, and we're getting ready to enjoy some of the race action. Before we can do that, of course, we go down on the grid for the pre-race festivities.
Fratelli d'Italia, l'Italia si desta, dell'elmo di Scipio si cinta la testa, dove la vittoria li porga la chioma si schiama. Fratelli d'Italia, l'Italia si desta, dell'elmo di Scipio si cinta la testa, dove la vittoria le porga la chioma, che schiava di Roma e Dio la creò. Stringiamoci a corte, stiamo pronti alla morte, stiamo pronti alla morte, l'Italia chiamò. Stringiamoci a corte, stiamo pronti alla morte, stiamo pronti alla morte, l'Italia chiamò. Sì! Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the still there. Oh, see, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All I can say is, here at Ferrari, we do things properly. What a rousing start to our program as we see the drivers walk away then and begin their preparations for our racing activities this afternoon. Hello and welcome to Sonoma, round 5 of our 2024 Ferrari Challenge calendar here in North America. And turn 11 looks very, very lovely, does it not, with all of those people. You can see into our studio. There we are, right to the right-hand side of that Sonoma Raceway sign. And as I mentioned then, the 2024 calendar, here we are, round 5 at Sonoma Raceway. And still to come, we will, of course, be heading off to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That around the middle of September, between September 11 and 15. And then all roads lead to the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for the Finale Mondiale in Imola, October the 16th to the 20th, which will round out our 2024 season. What a season it has been, and it promises to be simply superb racing here at Sonoma. Situated, of course, very much in the wine country, and beautiful location, and what a track in terms of demanding for our drivers. Repaved from the last time we were here, which was last year. And there you can see the 11 and 12 turns that really demand the most of our drivers in these wonderful Ferrari Challenge 296 cars that are here to perform all afternoon. So there you can see that's what the track map looks like. And the air temperature at the moment, 23 degrees, track temperature, 32 degrees. Wind has picked up a little bit, 14 kilometers per hour wind gusts and 52% humidity. First action we're going to see on track will come from our Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers, and a big mix of those top drivers and car combos out there on track. It's going to be awesome as we see them in their final stages of preparation then. The hands device and crash helmet going on, and the sense of anticipation up here is brilliant down there on the grid. It must be even brighter. Amanda Busick, good afternoon.
Hey guys, yeah, you're going to pull me away from the action here. I'm sorry my attention is a little bit taken back by everything that we just witnessed down here. What a beautiful day for race number 9 on this Ferrari season here. We're going to kick off with this Trofeo Pirelli class. You can see Dylan Medler behind me getting all suited up for this race ahead. You guys know he came in here tied for the points lead. However, it was Roberto Perina who took that pole and gained 1 point. But we'll get into those more storylines as we kick off this race. I want to just talk about the festivities that we've had here today. Guys, right before you heard those anthems that were so beautifully done, there was a driver autograph session, and I got in line. Our drivers have hero cards. There were probably 200 people in line waiting to get our drivers' autographs. So just fun to see that the celebrations are here. But I know you guys took a little look at what racing at Sonoma looks like in the schedule, but man, when you think about the elevation here at Sonoma, you think about those high-speed corners, you think about right where we are right now, the exit of turn 11. Let's go ahead and head to a track preview. It's the guy that currently sits third in the points.
Hey everyone, I'm Matthias Perez Kopak, the driver of the number 50 car of AF Corse in the 296 Challenge, and I'm gonna take you on a lap around Sonoma Raceway.
So coming across the start-finish line in Sonoma, we are in the first corner flat out in 6th gear, brake slightly, downshift to 4th for the second corner, accelerate onto 4th gear, use all the track on the right, brake, and get a good exit out of turn 3. Onto turn 4 we brake just late, use all the track on the left. This kink we lift a little bit, we arrive into 5th gear on the carousel, downshift to 4th, and just use the throttle to control the front of the car, fighting it. And we we accelerate on this straight. Here is a hard braking zone. We downshift 2 gears, accelerate on this straight, and touch the curve on the inside. Coming to the S's, we go flat out on the first 2, brake slightly to turn the car, and just here a lift also to help turn the car. Here we are flat out again. We brake slightly again to turn the car on 5th gear, and back on power early. And for the last corner, it's a hard braking one. We turn in late to get a good exit out of it, and to finish the lap good. And that's a lap around Sonoma Raceway.
Matias Perez Compact then, one of many young drivers that are using the Ferrari Challenge as a springboard to even greater things perhaps in motorsport. Justin Bell alongside me then when we opened the program earlier on, and that breathtaking start to our program with the national anthems and the pre-race festivities. We are set for some awesome racing this afternoon.
Yeah, I think we really are. Just having watched how qualifying unfolded, the way everyone drove so well, the days of practice have led up to today. I mean, talking to quite a few of the drivers, and so many of their coaches are my peers.
Yes.
And it's like the place that successful, mature drivers come to pass on their knowledge. I was going to say where old dogs go to die, but no, it's not. It's where they come to share their knowledge, and it's unbelievable the talent that's in this pit lane supporting these young drivers. So there is every chance for someone to showcase what their talents are, get real-time driving experience, which is so important, real racing experience. These cars have more horsepower than the cars we see in IMSA because of the regulations. So that is a mastery there and talent set that they're going to have, which should really prepare them, if they have the talent, the backing, the motivation, the desire, the dream, everything you need, and the skill set. Therefore, why not? Why not go on to be a major star on the world stage? And you can say it all started here. So I've got my eye on a few. I think it's great.
Yes, it is, and we have littered talent across Pirelli and Pirelli Am now, just so that you can easily identify in which category each driver is racing. The Pirelli drivers have a red strip across the top of the windscreen. The Pirelli Am drivers have a white strip across the top of the windscreen. It was a very mixed qualifying session because of weather conditions earlier on. However, Roberto Perina came out on top for our Pirelli drivers, the Ferrari of Seattle driver, besting Jason McCarthy and Dylan Medler for pole position. And then in the Pirelli Am drivers, Tony Davis ahead of Cyril Choksi, who's moved up from Shell into Pirelli Am, and then Dave Musial. They were the top 3 in Pirelli Am. Of course, when the cars get away on their rolling lap, we'll bring you the grid in full. But as we're rolling through, you can see the number 46 car there of Martin Burrows. Now, Martin had an off during one of the FP sessions, but the team have worked really, really hard and got him back out, so well done to the team from Ferrari of Quebec. Martin Burrows will be starting and will be going from the last place on the grid for our Pirelli drivers, but Martin Burrows knows how to overtake and will use his experience and prowess to so do. There is our pole sitter, Roberto Perina then, the Ferrari of Seattle driver who banked that valuable point, because a real nip and tuck between himself and Dylan Medler. Dylan Medler is going from P3, and I know, Amanda Busick, you've got something to say about the young whippersnapper that is Dylan Medler.
Yeah, Dave, it was a couple years ago that he ended up sweeping the weekend. It was a big high in that guy's career. I believe it was his first ever all-win, and maybe it was a runner-up finish in race 2, but it was a highlight for that family. And then last year, I believe he was on podium as well. So it's a track that Dylan Medler knows very well, and one that he looks forward to on the season of coming into. I got to give it up for our officials here today. As you can see, all the Ferrari fans we had here already cleared from this racetrack as we get ready for race number 1 here in Trofeo Pirelli at Sonoma Raceway. I know we talked briefly about qualifying earlier, but what a strange session it was for our drivers. We've had just beautiful practice sessions here leading into this morning, so I'm assuming some of those drivers are happy to get back to business. You have Roberto Perina, who now leads the point. You have Jason McCarthy that would love to get that overtake headed into turn 1, and then Dylan Medler hoping to make move here. But I love the story that you mentioned briefly, Dave, on Cyril Choksi. Thinking of jumping up from a class that he's running for so long in that Copa Shell division, occasion now in Trofeo Pirelli and to start next to his teammate in Tony Davis and race him for a potential race win here today. That's pretty cool. But as we get to know different drivers within the Ferrari paddock, one of the guys that we've already talked about being Dylan Medler. He's a college student at the University of Miami, taking some time off this weekend to see if he can get that points lead back. Berta Raprina, let's learn more.
So we're back here in Sonoma. I have a great experience here. I had my first win here actually 2 years ago, so to come back again is such a special thing. Now we have the track repaved, so it's like 4 seconds quicker with the 296. So it's just substantially quicker, night and day difference. And it's always a great time here, being here with Ferrari. So it's a 5th round of Ferrari Challenge, but this week is actually my first week of junior year, University of Miami. It's pretty hard to balance, you know, because with Challenge it takes the entire week. It's so much fun, but balancing that with school is difficult, but I would take this over school any day. It's too much fun. We're tied right now in the championship lead, so now it's a lot more competitive, which is more fun. I'm glad it's like this, so it's like a sprint race until the end. So this weekend, my team and I, we're really looking forward to a double podium, hopefully a double win. It's going to be a fun race, so hopefully not a lot of overtaking. Hopefully I can start on pole. It's going to be a very fun weekend.
Thank you so much, Dylan. He's got work to do. He's got a couple of cars to overtake to get to that P1 position, but you certainly wouldn't bet against that happening. Dylan Medler for the collection, going from P3 on the grid.
Dylan, if you're listening, I'll tell you this. College will not win out over driving a Ferrari. Take it from me. My college career was brief, not even that beautiful, but driving a race car was. So right now he's focusing on gaining a couple of spots, and of course the beginning of the race is always a good moment to do it, Dave. So I think the level of grip these guys are feeling right now, the confidence will be spectacular. When you come off those wet sessions, those damp sessions, and you go out on a new set of slicks, it is as though you feel 100% better, more capable, more talented than you were in the wet. They've got everything to race for, and they've got the right car to do it in.
Thank you, Justin. Thrilled that you're alongside to bring us a completely different perspective to the one that I can bring, because, of course, Justin's been there, done that, worn the T-shirt and washed it several times, unlike me. So you can see the cars lining up now on the grid ahead of the start of our first race this afternoon, our Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. And there you can see these wonderful Ferrari Challenge 296 cars that the drivers just come out of the car beaming from ear to ear, because it is such a joy for them to drive. And we have so many good drivers in Pirelli and Pirelli AM then, as they make their way into their grid boxes ahead of the start. Now, of course, always in the Ferrari Challenge, we have a rolling start to get the key race underway, and they head off behind the safety car, and then once the safety car peels off into the pit lane, it is the responsibility of those right at the front of the pack, who on occasion today, Roberto Perina and Jason McCarthy. Now, Jason, very experienced driver, of course, in the Ferrari Challenge. And then he's got Dylan Medler and Dave Musial Jr. They are right behind as well, so it's going to be a very, very interesting start on this very undulating circuit then, the Sonoma Raceway. 6 left-handers, 6 right-handers, and turns 2 and 3, negative camber. They're off camber terms, with the inside of the turn higher than the outside. I mean, it takes some mastering, but once you have mastered, it is a wonderful feeling knowing that you have delivered of your best here at the Sonoma Raceway. So final drivers moving into their boxes then on the pre-grid, as you can see, and just thrilled that Martin Burrows is on the grid then. As I mentioned, the team have had to work very, very hard in getting that car ready. There you can see into the hospitality area, which is lavish and delightful, and a wonderful place to spend some time and just enjoy the racing action to come. So many friends, family and guests, of course, of our Ferrari Challenge drivers are using the opportunity of that hospitality to give you a great vantage point around turn 11. Of course, you can see the track unfold in front of you, so it is a great place to be, and it is a joy, and the weather is altogether better now than it was for our qualifying sessions earlier on today, so that's really, really nice to see. And yep, the track is set dry. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no word of any rain that is likely to affect us during the course of the race this afternoon. 30 minutes on the clock then is what the drivers will face, and I remind you there are two categories within the one race. There are Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers. As you look at the number 31 car there of Dave Musial Jr., that's to the very left of your picture. He drives for the Ferrari of Lake Forest team, of course. Dave Musial Jr., or 2.0 as he's known, racing with his father, Dave Musial, who's racing in Pirelli Am. So he'll have a white strip across the top of the windscreen. What a great thing that must be to race father and son together in the same race. And Dave Musial, another one of those young drivers with real talent, and that is showing in the Ferrari Challenge. Of that, there is no doubt. So right now, let's go down onto the grid. Nancy Lynn has got the honor, if you will, of inviting these drivers to get ready for racing.
3, 2, 1. On behalf of Race for RP, thank you, Ferrari North America. Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
Nancy's got a big voice, that's for sure. And yes, the power plants of these 296 Challenge cars then roar into life as we get ready for it then. The first of the races to come. We go on board and we can see what it's like from a driver's eye perspective of the Ferrari of Seattle driver Roberto Perina, who will be going from pole position. Well done once again to Nancy Lynn for racing for RP. Doing a very good job in getting the drivers to fire up their cars ready for this race. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am. Myself and Justin Bell and Amanda Busick will bring you all the action across the 30 minutes to come here at the Sonoma Raceway. What a sight that is from our drone. A wonderful image of all these cars lined up, ready to go. The safety car, bang on time, leads the cars away then on their formation lap. And this is going to be a race to remember. So on the formation lap, and we will bring you the grid in full then from our qualifying session earlier on. Bear in mind, a point is earned if you take pole position in each of the categories, whether it's Pirelli or Pirelli Am, and the beneficiary of those points are Roberto Perina and, of course, Tony Davis. And in Roberto Perina's case, that means that it's given him a 1-point advantage at the moment over Dylan Medler. So let's take a look at the grid in full for you then in voice and graphics. Roberto Perina then pole position, alongside him the very experienced Jason McCarthy. Then we find Dylan Medler and Dave Musial Jr., two danger men from P3 and P4. Matias Perez Compang, another very fast driver, he goes from P5, and never rule out Joe Rubo from P6. Then it is Michael Petramalo and Martin Burrows. He's another driver that will be doing some overtaking. The best of the Am drivers, Tony Davis, and newcomer into Pirelli Am, Cyril Choksi, goes alongside. P11 for David Musial and Brian Cook out of position. He goes from P12. Frank Szczesniak and Michael Mathis both had a reasonable qualifying session. They go from P13 and 14 with Omar Balkasoon and Chris Cagnazzi. They are on the 8th row of the grid. To the 9th row, where we find John Horsch and Jay Logan. They are P17 and P18. Sebastian Mascaro and Ophir Levy, they go from P19 and P20, with Brad Falver then bringing up the rear of the pack. And that's the way it looks then for our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race. Right now then, the drivers in the final stages of preparation. And Justin, what's going through? Is it anticipation building? Is it nerves? Is it anxiety?
Well, at this point, I always used to say when the helmet comes on, the nerves tend to dissipate a bit. Before that, you've got friends, family, all the ceremony. It's everyone else is enjoying that. Meanwhile, you're just focused on the race and just dying to get in the car. Right now, it's just you and your engineer and no other noise. It's a beautiful, I mean that metaphorically, obviously you have the engine noise and everything, but it's just that you are isolated and able to focus and just feel your own heartbeat, looking down at the gauges and just making sure, planning actually what you're going to do. At the front, you know that Perina's going to be like, I've got to hammer down, get a good clean sweep into turn 1, up into turn 2, up the uphill there. You can have, he's got to watch out McCarthy doesn't dive bomb him on the inside to the right-hander. You're actually playing your game of chess, and like all best laid plans, it goes upside down in the first 6 seconds, and then you have to recalibrate. But you do like to formulate a plan, and as they come around, you're very aware of just the car either side of you and the one in front. It's very insular, actually, whereas we're looking at it as the whole grid. But beautiful formation, nice and tight. The INSA officials will be happy with that one.
So here we go then around that horseshoe turn then, standing by Roberto Perina and Jason McCarthy. We throw 2 shots so that you can see all the action as it unfolds right at the start of this race, then race 1 of our weekend. Perina and McCarthy could not be closer together if they were welded together, as well, Jason McCarthy getting the launch on Roberto Perina as they head uphill, and Dylan Medler following through as well. And here you can see a little bit of contact between the two, just a little panel rub. Who's going to be the big beneficiary here? It could be Dylan Medler, potentially. So, first sequence of turns, somebody dropping back there. Couldn't quite catch who it was, but, well, Jason McCarthy has done a very, very good job. Dylan Medler up in that P3 position is continuing to chase, and Matthias Perez compact and Joe Rubo, and you can see all the drivers jostling for positions in the early stages. Now the race is not won on the first lap, of course, but really pivotal positions can be made on that opening lap, and that's precisely exactly what Justin Bell was saying alongside me here. Jason McCarthy knew he'd got to make his move early on, and that's precisely what he did, and at the moment he's able to hold his own, but Roberto Perina is chasing hard, so too is Dylan Medler. There's Matthias Perez compact then in that number 50 car, moving up into P4 as Dave Musial Jr. gets locked out to the side a bit there and loses a couple more positions, I believe.
You know what, they've got to settle down a little bit. There was quite a bit of body rubbing. In fact, I think Perina and McCarthy touched as they crossed the start-finish line. So that was a bit of argy-bargy, as we like to hear. But right now, I mean, that was a well-executed start. I don't think Perina will be very happy with that. But right now, those top 3 haven't pulled away that far from the cars behind. They're looking for any opportunity, any mistake going in too late, under braking, running wide. That's the time you exploit the weakness of the guy in front of you.
Fair point. The order on the left-hand side of your screen, as you can see, it's McCarthy from Perina, from Medler, from Compact. Now, for the AM drivers, Tony Davis, Dave Musial, and it's Brian Cook. Cyril Choksi losing out right at the start to the likes of Dave Musial and Brian Cook. John Horsch running then Frank Szczesniak and Omar Balkasoon. So leading for Continental Autosports in Pirelli AM is indeed Tony Davis. He's having a stellar season, is Tony, and looks to be pretty comfortable here at the Sonoma Raceway, but he is being chased by Dave Musial. He, of course, father to Dave Musial 2.0, is chasing Tony Davis. There is Tony Davis, there's Dave Musial, and right behind them is Brian Cook, another driver having a stellar season this season in the Ferrari Challenge North America, and he's pushing Musial very, very hard, which is playing into the hands a little bit of Tony Davis, who can rub his hands with invisible soap and try and escape up the road, because he really wants the fight to come from Brian Cook to Dave Musial, because that just means he hasn't got the threat of Musial right behind him. For the moment, though, there's very little between the top 3 in Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo, Pirelli, and currently these 3, and then Cyril Choksi running in P4 at the moment. So Tony Davis did a good job in qualifying and has converted that P1 position in qualifying to the race lead in class. Meantime, it's as we were then in Pirelli, with McCarthy, Perina and Medler still arguing over that P1 position, with nothing changing currently as McCarthy accelerates up the hill then ahead of Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler. Then Matthias Compact, who you can see is running in P4. So that's the way it looks. Jason McCarthy sets the fastest lap. You would expect that, because he's got completely clear track ahead of him. Number 31 car is Dave Musial. He's being chased now by Michael Petramalo and, of course, Martin Burrows as well. I remind you that Martin Burrows started from last position within the Pirelli class, because he wasn't able to set a time in qualifying following an off in one of the practice sessions. However, the team worked very hard, got the car back in order again as Dave Musial Jr. now sets the fastest lap. As McCarthy continues to lead Perina and Medler, and then it is Matthias Compact running in P4. For the AM drivers, Tony Davis, Dave Musial and Brian Cook. They are the top 3 in that category. All looking pretty neat and tidy thus far, Justin Bell.
Yeah, I mean, right now that you settle down after the first 2 or 3 laps, you start to evaluate everyone around you. I mean, as you say, especially when Dave is trying to pull away from Musial in second category, what they're trying to do is stop looking in the mirror the whole time. There's a moment that you pull another second or 2 and you can focus on your own progress without looking in your mirrors, driving in your mirrors, as we say. So This is looking really sweet right now. But look, everyone's running very close considering this disparity we saw in qualifying. But right now, they're right up each other.
I thought Dave Musial was going to take a look at the inside of Tony Davis then, just for a moment. He got close, but not quite close enough. So Tony has got his rear view screen absolutely full of the Dave Musial car. And David Musial then driving like a demon today, has to be said, and in that P2 position. Now, of course, these wonderful Ferrari 296 cars don't have a rear view mirror inside the car. They have a big, big screen. The reason for that is they have a huge safety bulkhead, which prevents a rear view mirror. The screen, I'm told by all the drivers, is actually vastly superior to a rear view mirror. It gives you a more expansive view, and Jason McCarthy's expansive view is full of Roberto Perina at the moment. This is the fight that's going on for P1, P2 and P3 in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, as Dylan Medler's looking very lively here.
All sorts of lines, everyone evaluating each other. I mean, you've really got a situation where McCarthy's like focusing. He's hoping Medler's going to be right up Perina's chuff as they go through here. But equally, they're all trying to jockey for line to see where they're going to get off the corner. I don't see, until the tires have a bit of degradation in them, I don't see these three overtaking each other very easily. This is my famous last words. You'll go straight by now. But unless there's a mistake or you keep the pressure on, they're running the same pace, and a beautiful pace it is. But look, in fourth place, I mean, fourth and fifth are only right there. They're one mistake out of the way.
The Dylan Medler fan club in fine voice then as Dylan continues his quest as Roberto Perina is really taking it to Jason McCarthy now.
That's it.
Beautiful. Almost to the inside there. Jason McCarthy just making his 296 a little bit wider and preventing Perina from going through. Let's ride on board. This is a roller coaster battle that we can enjoy from on board now. Perina has absolutely got the pace. It's all very well having the pace. You've got to find a way by, and thus far he is being denied by Jason McCarthy, but you can see that Roberto Perina, who I'm sure you're right, Justin, he'll be furious with the start of the race and will feel that he wants to right the wrong of that, perhaps, and get past Jason McCarthy. Well, Jason is certainly not going to indicate left and let him through.
Right now is the setup. He's got to get a better exit out of here to be able to position the car to overtake in the braking area. He is not quite close enough. If you want to go by, you've got to set up. Go around the braking, you've got to set up in the couple of corners before, but right now he's just got busy again with Medler, so it's yin and yang.
This is the problem, isn't it? Because the more you try and attack the car in front, you're making yourself vulnerable to that car that is right behind you. And on this occasion, it is Dylan Medler who, of course, is chasing. There's a real battle for the points between the cars that are P2 and P3 at the moment. For my money, the very sensible driver is Matthias Kompak. He's just letting them fight.
His tyres are going to be in better condition going into the final shoot. So there's some strategy at play here, but equally, in identical cars, you can't just sit back and play too much of a waiting game,
right?
Because you're all going to have the same levels of degradation and fatigue and everything, all in the same level. So you actually really want to be very opportunistic. Manage your tires. So I think you're right. I mean, this is a good fight in every area.
Yes, this Pirelli Am fight is a four-way fight for P1, actually. Tony Davis leading from Dave Musial, who's running P2. Then it's Brian Cook. Then it is Cyril Joxy, and Cyril Joxy doing a very, very good job here. So some great driving going on, and let's go down to Amanda Busick, who's got news on Brad Falver.
Yeah, you'll go back to qualifying. Brad did suffer a mechanical issue in that session. You know, guys, he's out here on the weekends racing with his son, who will be racing in that 488 class later on today. But I ran into both the Favres prior to this race, but Gray said he was able to secure a Ferrari for this one. He said, Amanda, I will start from the rear, but root for me. And as you can see, he's hard charging through this field of Ferraris, already up 5 positions, guys.
Absolutely, he's got past Mascaro, Cagnazzi, Levy, Mathis and Logan as well, so he's doing a good job. Yes, and it's great to see that Brad is doing a good job out there and putting himself into good points-paying positions right now as this fight for P1 in Pirelli continues. Just for my money, I think Matthias Perez Kompak, who's sitting in P4 at the moment, I think very wise driving from a very, very young driver, because he's allowing these three ahead of him to take more out of their cars and out of their tyres, and he's just being
being super smooth, and he'll be ready to pounce like a viper when they do start to really, really feist up that fight ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with you. I think that he's running a great race. If you actually watch, he hasn't put a foot wrong the whole way through. He's able to drive just enough in ahead of Rubo behind, so he can't back off, and he can't lose contact with the cars in front. It'll be hard to get back. But you can actually drive. I'm not saying he's driving at 80% right now, but it'll feel like he's driving at 80%.
Okay.
Because he's able to almost just be pulled along by the train in front. And you always hope, hey, as soon as one of them might get each other a little sideways going into the hairpin or something, I've got the chance to strike. So this story isn't written yet for him, but there's 3 guys in front that are going to want it to end in a different way. So,
of course. Right, now putting the pressure
nice setting
on.
up there for an overtake. Whoa.
So Dave Musial Jr., Joe Rubo, then they're running P6 and P5 respectively, as here comes Brian Cook then trying to put himself right alongside Dave Musial here. So Cook now has to dive out of that, but Musial is under pressure. Tony Davis is rubbing his hands and thinking, thank goodness for that. It allows me to concentrate on every apex for the moment, but it heats up once again. Dave Musial is back on the tail of Tony Davis, who's leading this Pirelli AM race. The gap between them is merely 0.6 between P1, 2 and 3, and 4 come to that as well, because Cyril Choksi is still in that mix with John Horsch and Frank Szczesniak running just behind, and Frank Szczesniak just setting a fastest lap as John Horsch just taking a slightly different line on Cyril Choksi there.
Absolutely, you can see little defensive twitch. He went to the inside. That allows you to set up a little better when you're the car behind. But they're all running so close in this train that you make a defensive move, you make an aggressive move, the guy behind is countering you. So there's a ripple effect all the way through here. At this point of the race, you're going to start to see 7 laps in. They know, they absolutely have the measure of the guys around them. They know they're already evaluating the car in front or the car behind. Oh, you know what, I am exposed if I don't keep my braking zone as tight as it is, or you know, if I don't keep on it, I'm going to be exposed to the guy in front or behind. So you really, there's no surprises to come right now. They know where they are, and they've got a plan going into this second and third of the race right now.
5, 6 cars all vying for the top positions in Pirelli AM at the moment, as Brian Cook then to the outside of Dave Musial. He'll try and get underneath right now, but Cyril Choksi is keeping Brian really Cook as Cyril takes a wide line. John Horsch almost able to get to the inside of him. John Horsch currently running P4. John Horsch in the all-black 296 Challenge car. There's Dave Musial, and there's Tony Davis, who is leading this. So it's very exciting racing going on here. So we're staying with the Pirelli AMs at the moment. And there's Cyril Choksi is beginning to feel the pressure right now of John Horsch, the Ferrari of Vancouver driver, currently running P5. So John Horsch gets very close to Cyril. Cyril, who mentioned earlier on in the program, moved up from Copachel into Trofeo Pirelli AM, and he's really doing a good job in this elevation of class, if you will, elevation of category. So Cyril Choksi then certainly knows how to get the best out of these 296 cars, as Brian Cook continues to really pile the pressure on Dave Musial, who's soaking it up like a sponge. And for my money, the pace between all these drivers is so very good, because Tony Davis has not been able to break away by anything meaningful. Running P2 for the moment, Roberto Perina. He's chasing Jason McCarthy ahead. Dylan Medler is P3, and then being very quiet at the moment is Matias Perez Companc, who is in P4. And I know, Amanda, you have some info on Matias.
Yeah, you're going to take a look at that 50 Ferrari running out of Ferrari of Central Florida. He actually races with the AF Corsa team. I was just talking to the team of if there is strategy to keep their driver back a little bit as those 3 drivers ahead of him battle it out. And without saying too much, the team just said, we hope that our tires are there at the end. But it does bring up a good point. When you think of tire degradation, is it easier on offense or is it harder on defense, guys?
Well, Justin, you're perfectly positioned perhaps to be able to answer that.
Well, I'd like to be the one with the tires under me for the offense,
okay,
rather than having to deal with the ones on the defense. But you're so right, Amanda, the message they gave you was right now, if he was just trying to fight, be a little bit more sporty, it would be to no avail. There is no going by right now when you're running the same lap times. So why get so close to the car in front that you're in? I mean, these cars don't really suffer turbulence like you would in a Formula car, but why get in that dirty air behind? Why take away your line of sight so you brake a bit more erratically? You definitely get a bit sloppier the closer you get to the guy in front. It's just the way it goes. His mistake becomes yours. It's, you know, it's very hard to disassociate yourself from the car in front. So having a little bit of a gap there, just sizing it up, that is the way to do it. Of course, he has to live up to that promise now. In that last third, I'm expecting fireworks.
Okay, well, talking of fireworks, Tony Davis then, who is leading in Pirelli AM, but still being chased very, very hard by Dave Musial and Brian Cook as well, although Brian has just dropped back a little bit now. But this is the fight for P1 in Pirelli AM then, between Tony Davis and Dave Musial. Musial taking a look at the inside, and he's
beautiful.
Can he hold on to this though? Because Tony has got the inside line right now. He's going to come back at him. They're side by side. This is the fight for P1 in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli AM. Side by side they go. And I'll tell you what, a cool head there from Tony Davis paid off, I believe.
Wow, that was very nice driving. It was interesting coming off the left-hander, running up into that top sequence. I saw the car just twitch a little bit, and Davis got a little bit twitchy, and I thought, oh, okay, the first signs of traction breaking away. You know, the pace of the race is costing him. So, yeah, I think we're going to start to see mistakes being made now.
14 minutes remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race. Tony Davis leading the Pirelli AM category, but by Jiminy, Dave Musial is keeping him very keen here, and Brian Cook and Cyril Choksi are certainly within fighting distance as well, who are running in P3 and P4. There you can see Brian Cook is now taking it to Dave Musial, and Tony Davis is breathing a sigh of relief, probably, in trying to escape up the road. Jason McCarthy continuing to lead Roberto Perina and Dylan Medler in the Trofeo Pirelli race, but we're focusing on this Trofeo Pirelli AM fight that's going on. And Tony Davis leading from Dave Musial and Brian Cook. And then it is Cyril Choksi and John Horsch, who are P4 and P5. Downhill as John Horsch takes a look at the inside of Cyril Choksi. He'd be a brave man to make a move downhill round there, but he looked like he was just sizing up Cyril.
Yeah, I think he's just letting him know he's there. You don't want to do too many of those like fake moves, because you actually end up burning up your car, and the guy in front is a bit like crying wolf. He goes, you're never going to go by. So it's better to hold, and then be aggressive and make the move stick. I'd say at this stage in the race, we've got just under 13 minutes to go. It's time to start making tracks right now. I started to see the cars, especially at the front, they're coming out of the corners. You can see them leaning over a bit, just getting a little bit of oversteer. If you're the guy behind, it's a little key. You're starting to pick up the clues that the guy in front is starting to push his tires too hard. We're seeing that in both categories right now, so moves will be made.
Jason McCarthy and Tony Davis then, respective leaders in each of the categories, Pirelli and Pirelli AM, and they are holding their own for the moment. Still 12 minutes of the race remaining. Here we go with the Pirelli race then, and Jason McCarthy, who made that decisive move right at the start of the race on Roberto Perina, and that's when he needed to do it. He did it, and he's beginning to stretch his legs just a little bit away from Roberto Perina right now. Then it's Dylan Medler running P3 ahead of Matthias Compact P4. Then Joe Rubo ahead of Dave Musial Jr., Michael Petromalo and Martin Burrows. That's the way it looks in Pirelli. The number 55 car then of Roberto Perina for Ferrari of Seattle, who we ride on board with right now. And this is brilliant. From a driver's eye perspective, you can see them taking as much of the curbs as they dare. And Roberto Perina getting a good exit out of that turn, really beginning to reel in Jason McCarthy here. Have we come to this onboard just at the right time, as he's very nearly welded to the back of Jason McCarthy going into this turn. Is he going to dive to the inside? Is he close enough? Yes, he is. Whoa! How close was that? Brilliant, valiant effort from Roberto Perina, but good fair driving from both of them as well.
Yeah, it was like an incomplete move. He went for it, he backed out, and then he went for it again, and that's why it ended up being so close. He could make that stick.
Let's take a look at that again. It was so good. Let's rerun the fun. Here it is. So dive to the inside here, and there was a bit of contact. I didn't see that. So there was a bit of contact between the two of them as Jason, of course, defending his position, closed the door right royally, and you can see a little bit of damage to the front of the Roberto Perina car. I don't think it's going to impact or affect because he's holding on to this pace. So the gap between McCarthy and Perina, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, is just 1.5 tenths. That's how close it is in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli.
Perina would pull ahead if he got by. He'd gap him right now. He has the faster car out of the two of them. But going by is a whole nother thing. But he will have just taken some energy out of his tires by doing that. Right. It's going to take him a lap or two just to regroup again, but here he is. He's setting up nicely. We're watching them come in the downhill section here. Can you see he's right there, positioning himself. He's going to be thinking all the way through these corners. He's going to take a little bit less of a lift there, a little break. He's too far back to really pull off the move, but now he's got to look in his mirrors. So there's a lot of cars in the hunt, as they say right now.
Brian Cook, I just wonder whether he had to put a little steering angle on there to avoid contact with Roberto Perina, because he was very, very close going into that turn, and that has allowed Matthias Kompang to get ever closer to Brian Cook. So Brian Cook is having to go from attack to defend strategy right now, as Matthias Kompang wants to be on the podium with that P3. Tony Davis then continuing to lead from Dave Musial and Brian Cook. Then it is Cyril Choksi. So Tony Davis crosses the timing line then and maintains his P1 position. Such a good race going on here. Jason McCarthy, Roberto Perina, Dylan Medler, Matthias Kompang in the Pirellis, and then in the Pirelli AMs, it's this fight that's going on for P2 at the moment between Dave Musial and Brian Cook. Brian Cook in the yellow and red livery, and then Cyril Choksi right behind them as well, just waiting for them to step out of line so that he would be able to take advantage of that, and he would just dearly love to garner a podium on his first drive in a new category, the Pirelli AMs, as Tony Davis continuing to lead, and he's built up a little bit of a margin over Dave Musial just for the moment, because Dave Musial's review screen is full of Brian Cook.
Brian Cook is the fastest out of these three right now. He's just done the fastest lap time as I looked across at the time he's scoring. He'll be a little frustrated right now because he knows he can get a second. He knows if he could get by for second, could he go for the lead? The trouble is he could blow it all and end up fourth, because Choski is right up his Choski.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So there's he's got to make his move, but I'm liking the speed of his car. He's driving very well.
Right, I think Roberto Perina is lighting up the wick once again, and Jason McCarthy having to defend his P1 position. And there is Roberto Perina then in the number 55 car. I remind you that he qualified on pole position. He was overtaken right at the very start of this race, and he's chasing now Jason McCarthy. Now, Jason can ill afford to make any error whatsoever. He's got to hold on to this and make the car as wide as possible, Amanda Busick.
Yeah, he'll take a look at that 55 Ferrari of the Ferrari of Seattle driver. He runs out at MG1 setup. I was just talking to the team. There was actually contact on the start of this race as well as the overtake situation with Jason McCarthy that we saw in turn 11 from the driver. No issues with that Ferrari right now, but I did talk to them a little bit about points implications. Jason McCarthy can't really run for this championship. Oh, but Roberto and right behind him, Dylan, those are the two guys after it. So is it worth fighting Jason this hard? That's up to the driver.
Of course, the decision lies with him. He's the one that's in the car at the moment. And I'm guessing as a racing driver, it's very difficult sometimes to set yourself aside from the mathematical equation, think about the car in front, and that's always thought of as a target. And of course, Roberto Perina wants to get by Jason McCarthy. Of course, of maximum importance is keeping Dylan Medler behind him, which he is doing at the moment.
Yeah, and of course, and if you finish second, you don't get to talk to the one and only Amanda Busick on the podium. So what's the point? You know, so they obviously all want to be up there. But all seriousness, there's a big difference between first and second.
Yeah.
You go home that night and there's no excuses. What do you do? I won. All right, thanks. You know, it's what do you do in second? I have 20 excuses. Do you have the time? And that's how racing goes. So we're seeing a lot of people strategizing as we're in the 6th minute of this last 6 minutes of this 30-minute race here. Pace is really good. Everybody is running really well.
And the cars, so we watch Levy there in the number 13 car, trying to take it to Chris Cagnazzi, and right behind is Michael Mathis, of course, as we watch these Pirelli AM cars, who are right at the sharp end of this race. Climb up the hill and down they go the other side. Tony Davis, Dave Musial, and then it is Brian Cook and Cyril Choksi and John Horsch then. The pace of these drivers and car combos, it's been like a carbon copy throughout the course of the race. I mean, the pace has been absolutely fantastic, and you're trying to pressure the driver in front of you into just lapse of concentration, just make the tiniest of errors, because that's the in that you're looking for to try and find a way by, because the cars and drivers are just so evenly matched that it will require something almost external to give them the opportunity to get by.
Yeah, at this point, you're pretty settled, but you're going to start to see if they keep up this pressure, it's easy enough to make a mistake. But then, as I said earlier, if the guy behind has given it his best shot and not pulled off the move, it's very hard. You can't just keep going and going and going. We see that in NASCAR around here. They overtake on the way to the restroom, those guys. You know, they do it everywhere. But in sports car racing, we tend to be more balanced about it. And we give it a couple of goes, and then we have to reset ourselves. So, I mean, this is incredibly tight for the top. His mirrors, that little digital display, is high def threats in the, you know, and every time he looks at it, he's thinking, if I position this car wrong, I'm going to get overtaken. And I think Perina has a really, really good shot of getting by.
Well, let's see if he can do it. He's got 4 minutes, and as near as makes no difference to do that, and we're right on board with him right now. Jason McCarthy, for my money, has done a great job in defending, but Roberto Perina, I think you're right, he's taken a lap or two just to calm down a bit and then refocus his attack strategy on the Jason McCarthy car ahead. So try and take a wide line there, carry as much speed through as you possibly can, and we ride on board with Roberto Perina then running in P2 at the moment, chasing down that Jason McCarthy car. And Jason McCarthy just positioning the car perfectly on the track to deny Roberto Perina the opportunity to even put a move on him here. So let's see, who's going to be the king of the late breakers going into the final turn then. I don't think Perina is close enough to be able to do anything, and just now turning the wick up is Dylan Medler on Roberto Perina. He's in this really difficult position of hunting and being hunted at the same time, Justin.
Completely the case. But I'll tell you what, as the leading driver or the guy that's defending, you only need to pick a couple of places on the track to be better than the guy behind, which is normally on the corner before you're going to lead up to an overtaking opportunity. And he does that, coming down the hill every time. He extends a gap, which puts Perina too far back to really make the late braking move, you know. So that's the same actually in both categories. Musial is right up behind Davis, and he's pushing very hard. I mean, this is good racing, but there's a little gap. Can you see that? It's
yes.
Just Cook is making his presence felt there. As I said, I think my money over a longer race, I think Cook could have the faster car, but he cannot get by.
It's all very well having the faster car, as you say, you've got to find a way by, and at the moment that has not happened, and we're running out of time. Just about 2.25 minutes of this race remaining then. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo, Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers as a round has gone. Joe Rubo then onto the grass, getting it pointing back in the right direction again. So Dave Musial will be Dave Musial 2.0, that is, will have moved up to that P5 position. So Joe Rubo having gone around then, as I say, getting it pointing back in the right direction once again. Jason McCarthy, for lap after lap after lap, has had to defend from Roberto Perina. Perina, in turn, has had to defend from Brian Cook, who, in turn, is having to defend from Matias Perez-Companc right now. 1.5 minutes remaining as they cross the timing line right now. This is going to be the last lap. It's now or never, Justin Bell.
Yes, I think he's got to purely focus on the last corner. Do not make a mistake at the top and trying to dive bomb unless you can complete the lap. This is where racing experience and maturity as a driver will show. And you've got to keep the pressure on, but he knows that McCarthy is quicker coming out of the top section. He has been every lap, so he needs to focus on that. Because if he is right up his derriere going down into 11, he has a chance of an overtake. But look, I mean, every time, I think McCarthy's taking his coach's advice, and his coach is probably saying, do not look in your mirrors, give it up. Focus on your own race. Do not worry about the guy behind. Otherwise, you will get overtaken.
So Jason McCarthy then listening to the advice of his coach and just focusing on looking forward. Roberto Perina trying to do all the hard work behind. Brian Cook is ready, Dylan Medler is ready to take advantage of that if he possibly can. Two brilliant races between both Pirelli and Pirelli Am, and have been all race long. Jason McCarthy then made the decisive move right at the start of the race.
He's closer than before, Dave. He's closer than before, but easy to defend down into 11.
Here we go then. This is the final opportunity that Perina is going to have, and I don't think it's close enough, truthfully. Jason McCarthy positions the car absolutely perfectly. It's been a real ding-dong battle between the two of them over the entire duration of this race. The checkered flag awaits us. Jason McCarthy is victorious ahead of Roberto Perina, Dylan Medler, Matthias Compact. Then we'll see Dave Musial 2.0, and this is the battle for Pirelli Am. Tony Davis has led from start to finish. He's been threatened by Dave Musial throughout the race, but whatever Dave has been able to throw at Tony Davis, Tony has been able to absorb it, and he takes another victory in Trofeo Pirelli Am ahead of Dave Musial P2, Brian Cook P3, Cyril Choksi P4. Wow, two awesome races, and it was really interesting because it was the same in both categories, in that the top four, it could have gone any way.
I mean, I think hats off to both McCarthy and Davis for keeping their heads down, keeping a cool head, but it just shows that overtake he did at the beginning, which was pretty opportunistic, I've got to say, but it got him track position, which he never relinquished. So really very, very well done. I mean, he'll be very happy with that race. He worked for that.
Yes.
He survived an ambush down into 11. And that was very tough, and he was very aggressive. It would have been easy for him to have sort of left the door open and let Perina finish the pass, but he didn't, and he chopped the nose off his car, and it was a well-deserved. And of course, Davis, it was just a very, very nice drive, and again, the same thing there, survived a lot of pressure.
Yes, and that pressure was mounted throughout the race, and Tony just absorbed it. Credit to Dave Musial, really, really pushed hard. And Dave Musial, as I mentioned earlier on in our program, he was having to try and attack, but also not make himself vulnerable to the car right behind him, which was Brian Cook. So very interesting, and it's very, very difficult to manage that.
Yeah, Brian he'll be happy to be on the podium, but he'll have tonight he'll think over a glass of wine or two. He'll probably go, I think I could have almost done better if I'd got by. But around here, when you're running this close together, I mean, think about the gap between the top five in both categories. There were top 5 or 6. It was over just under a second or so, and that to me shows an equality of the cars and the drivers and the driver talent, and that's why this series is just flourishing.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the results then of that Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race. What a race that was here at Sonoma Raceway. Taking P1, Jason McCarthy then ahead of Roberto Perina, Dylan Medler, then Matthias Perez Compact, then it was David Musial Jr., Joe Rubo, then Michael Petramalo and Martin Burrows. Those are Pirelli drivers. Then we saw Tony Davis, Dave Musial and Brian Cook, the top 3 in Pirelli Am, ahead of Cyril Choksi, John Horsch, Frank Sesniak and Omar Balgasoon. And they complete that next page of our confirmed classification then, ahead of Brad Falva, Chris Cagnazzi, Ophir Levy, Sebastian Mascaro, Michael Mathis and Jay Logan. So it was compelling, and there was plenty to talk about during the course of the race. And even though the overtakes that perhaps we anticipated and expected didn't come, it certainly didn't make the race any less entertaining, because it could have happened in a heartbeat.
I mean, isn't that the nature of good sport?
Yes.
That you're waiting for something to happen and the position is there. I don't think we're at fault at all for anticipating a move, because it could have actually happened.
Yeah.
So much of motorsport we see today, the delta between first, second is so far that we lose interest, but there was no interest lost there. That was a very well-run race by all of them. And, I mean, all the way down, all the way through. No spinners. We had a couple of, wheels run wide, but that was an exemplary race and kind of, I think, set the bar pretty high for the rest of the afternoon.
I agree with you. Jason McCarthy victorious, and he is with Amanda Busick. Well done, Jason.
Yeah, Dave, you can still see Jason taking in the moment. It seems like your body language is starting to relax a little bit from that 30-minute just pursuit from Roberto Perino. You took that overtake right there in turn one, and then it was just defense the rest of the way. How did you manage that threat, Jason?
I just tried to stay focused, looking ahead. He's really fast, and you know, checking my mirrors, just seeing how close he is. He was very consistent. I think we're all consistent, lap after lap. I started with really low pressure, so the first few laps were a struggle. Easier than driving this morning in the wet with TC off, but with TC off, it was a struggle until lap 4 or 5 when the pressure started coming in, and then I was just trying to maintain my cool and just focus on the exits. This track's hard to pass if you don't mess up the exits. So
when you take a race like that from start to finish, and just the as we were talking about the threat of Roberto, how exhausting is a race like that?
I mean, I've driven close to 4.5, 5 hours Wednesday and Thursday, so relative to that, it's not so bad, but mentally it's taxing for sure.
And ready for it, guys. Jason McCarthy, winner in Trofeo Pirelli.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Well done, Jason. Then very interesting there, and credit to you and I, perhaps. We're exactly as he said there. You know, he just focused on his race. He wasn't worried about what was going on behind him, because Roberto had got to do all the hard work in coming by.
Yeah, I mean, he was a mature race. I think he knows he made a good pass at the start. I mean, I'm sure someone will have words with each other about touching on the start. You shouldn't really bang doors on the way to the checkered flag, on the way to the green flag. But that just shows how amped up everybody was trying to make a position. And anyway, a great race, and I'm sure everyone down there starting the next race was watching pretty closely too. So dry track, tires are working perfectly. I mean, we're on for another show.
Pirelli Am driver Tony Davis victorious once again. Well done, Tony. He's with Amanda Busick.
Dave, yeah, I just pulled him away from talking to Dave Musial, and I want to go back to your qualifying interview. You said that it's the competition that makes me better. How did Dave hold you accountable for that?
Well, I'd say both Cook and Musial. Dave and Brian are both really true drivers. They both got a ton of experience, in particular. Musial has so much experience, but Cook's a fantastic driver. So, yeah, with those two behind me, I'm like, I got to get going here. So, yeah, they made it hard. And we're good at different points in the track, so, you know, there's a springing effect. I gained some distance and I lose it. He did a couple moves, one of them almost worked. So anyway, it's a good race.
Well, the fans here and fans watching, Dave, were the spoil of that battle.
You're absolutely right. Thanks, Amanda. Well done to Tony Davis, then victorious in Pirelli Am. We will indeed take a look at the Drivers' Championship points in Pirelli. Then Roberto Perino leading Dylan Medler by 3 points. Then it's Matthias Perez-Gompang running P3. David Musial Jr., Jason McCarthy, Martin Burrows, Joe Rubo and John Bennett not here this weekend. They are the top 8 in the Pirelli Drivers' Championship. So Perino then has got a 3-point advantage. Michael Petramalo, Jeremy Clark, Cristian Portoliccio and Brett Curtis then in positions 9, 10, 11 and 12 in the Pirelli Drivers' Championship. Of course, we'll take a look at the Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship as well, which Brian Cook and Tony Davis on 3-2-1 points each. And then there's David Musial on 2-5-5. They are the top 3. Then it's John Horsch, who's moved up a place, Frank Chang, Cyril Choksi, Sebastian Mascaro and Michael Mathis. They are the top 8 in the Pirelli Am Drivers' Championship, which Brian still leads ahead of Omar Balkasoon, who's P9. Then it's Brad Falver, Jay Logan, Benoit Bergeron, Brandon Cruz, Chris Gagnazzi and Frank Szczesniak. They occupy positions 9 through 15 ahead of Brian Kaminsky and Ofer Levy, making his Ferrari Challenge debut here. Thank you so much for watching. From Amanda, from Justin and from myself, that was Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am. Bye-bye for now.